Hail, hail, the Celts are here, and what the hell do we care now, guys? We are getting set for our fourth game in this season's Champions League, the halfway point, and we are at home to RB Leipzig, who is a foe that we have met once or twice in battle before, and this is a game that, as usual for Celtic fans, as soon as we get to the eve of one of these games, especially at Paradise, optimism, hope, and that expectation of winning just starts to creep into your thinking, doesn't it? And in the video today, we're going to be previewing Celtic at home to Leipzig, what to expect from the opponent, how they're going to shape up, how do we come out of this game with something, and everything else in between, score predictions and all that good stuff, of course. Expected, predicted 11s, you know how it works on this channel. Any point in the video, if you do laugh, you learn, you like something or whatever, please do like and subscribe to the channel for more content like this. We are so close to 10,000 subscribers, boys and girls, and we cannot do that without your support. So if you do enjoy the videos here on the channel, smash the subscribe button for more content like this. Hit the like button if you enjoy this video, of course, and get into the comment section. And I want score predictions, guys. The comment sections on these videos is always on fire, and I'm looking forward to seeing what your guys' hopes and ambitions are for the game. How well can Celtic do? How many goals will there be in this game? And ultimately, how will the results shake out? And yeah, let's just get stuck straight into this one. Because like I mentioned in the intro, on a few different levels, we actually know what to expect from our opposition on Tuesday night. We've played Leipzig often enough in recent history, and we know from the Red Bull football group that all of their teams play in the exact same style, the exact same football philosophy, as it were. But not only that, but we've also faced against Marco Rosa, which, you know, normally, like, if you face against a manager, you kind of know what their tactics are or whatever. But we actually faced against Marco Rosa when he was the Salzburg manager, who played the exact same style of football. And when we came up against Marco Rosa at Salzburg, the manager of Celtic was also Brendan Rodgers. So we have a lot of histrionics to be able to draw upon in previewing in this match. Round one of Brendan versus Marco Rosa was away in Salzburg, and this was a game that, you know, we suffered quite a heavy 3-1 loss in. Salzburg did end up topping this group. We qualified also, with Leipzig being eliminated in the end, if you remember how it went. But looking at this Celtic team, it was not a vintage outfit by any stretch of the imagination. Seeing Malumbu, Boyata, Hendry, even Lee Griffiths, I suppose, it just doesn't scream like a well-built European Celtic team, as it were. Amadou Haidara, who played in this game for Salzburg, will be playing on Tuesday night for RB Leipzig. And then in the return game of Marco Rosa versus Brendan Rodgers at Celtic Park, we lose this 2-1, and a very different team that we've fielded here. But again, you wouldn't really class this as a vintage European Celtic squad at this point, with Benkovic and Simunovic being in centre back, I beg your pardon, with Christie coming into centre mid with Rogic. Some familiar names in the Salzburg team here, as they ran out 2-1 winners on the night with Minamino and Manis Dabur. But yeah, like I mentioned, Salzburg won this group. They beat Leipzig as well, for the most part. 18 points they finished on in that group, undefeated, absolutely roasted everyone. So fair play to Marco Rosa and that Leipzig team. In the exact same group, in the same competition, we also took on RB Leipzig, of course, which is our actual opponent on Tuesday night. And again, we know very much how this team does shape up. We know what to expect from them. When we did welcome them at Celtic Park in that same competition, their midfield was, wow, the whole team, very, very good. Upamecano, Willie Orban, Klosterman, both of these guys, Orban and Klosterman, will be playing on Tuesday night. But look at that midfield: Marcel Sabitzer, Conrad Leimer, and Kevin Campbell, who will be playing as well on Tuesday night against the Hoops, with a front three of Bruma and Augustin, who are kind of okay players, I suppose, but Matthias Cunha, who's now at Wolves in the Premier League, of course. And again, a very different Celtic lineup. It feels like every team that we've fielded in this Europa League was completely different. Gamboa coming in at right back, Ibui Kawase playing in centre mid, and Lewis Morgan up front with Edouard. And we lost that game 2-0. But the return game on this one, because the Leipzig games were the head-to-heads in the middle of this group, we beat them at Celtic Park 2-1. I was actually at this game, you might remember it. Kieran Tierney scored very early to open the scoring, and then they equalised later in the match, and then immediately Eddie went up the pitch and got us back in front. And again, a very star-studded team, very similar to the last lineup we've seen, but they've also had Mukiele available for this one, who's also a France international now and played at PSG, he's now at Leverkusen and whatnot. Jan Mvogo, the goalkeeper for both of their games, and I remember seeing him at Celtic Park and being rather unimpressed. So Brendan Rodgers versus Marco Rosa at Salzburg, and Brendan Rodgers versus Leipzig is, you know, it's a bit spotty, isn't it? It's not been plain sailing so far, but the manager and a lot of the characters involved on Tuesday night have kind of been there, seen it and done it, as it were. Last time we faced Leipzig, of course, was in the Champions League only a few seasons ago, back in 2022, and we lost 3-1 the opening game away to Leipzig. And this game, like, look at this starting lineup, honestly, like, this is an elite Leipzig team, if ever you've seen one. Guardiola and Kunku, Soboslai, a pretty decent Werner, although he didn't have a good game against us. Rom, who's still at the club but is actually injured. We'll talk about that in a minute. Alongside the goalkeeper that we'll see on Tuesday night again, there's Galassi. And this Celtic team was quite fun, wasn't it? This team was exciting, but look at the defence. This is not the Greg Taylor that I think we know and love nowadays, certainly. But Welsh and Jens, Juranovic, I think Juranovic was good, but he's also not performed too well in this match. And Joe Hart kind of being the lamb to the slaughter on this game, as it were. And then the home game for a lot of the existing squad that we've got, where, we lost 2-0, but this was kind of stolen towards the end of the game. It was very tight, very nip and tuck, not much in it. And then really they just kind of outmuscled us towards the end, using the bench and keeping their paces high. And again, looking at this team, it's not too dissimilar to the team that we'll see on Tuesday night, but Janis Blaswich was preferred in goal last year over Galassi. One of the main things that excites me about looking at the background of this game is none of those matches were a really one-sided event, even for how strong some of these different teams have been, Salzburgs and the Leipzigs and whatever. We've always been in every one of these matches. Very often we've been scoring as well, and it's just been fine margins that have defined it, even though our squads in the past haven't actually looked that good compared to some of the stellar names that they've had coming through their ranks. And if we have a look at the Leipzig team as it's forecasted to set up on Tuesday night, this is definitely not up there, I think, with the same level of Leipzig that we've came across in the past. Baumgartner's coming in now to the team to replace Xavi Simons, who's now injured, but Benjamin Henrich's coming in to replace the injured David Ram, who's normally a right back, but Benjamin Henrichs is a big guy, can kind of play in midfield. It'll be interesting to see how that develops. And Gertruida starting at right back, who played against us for Feyenoord recently enough. You might remember him. He was very big and strong and very hard to get past in that game. But outside of that, the rest of this team, Openda's got a lot of pace and is very clinical, and Sesko is looking like a proper finisher. It could go right to the top of European elite football. But the rest of this team isn't really anything I'm too worried, I'm too frightened about when it comes to a Champions League opponent, especially one coming to Celtic Park with the sort of form that this team has been showing. And the predicted 11 for this, I wouldn't really be arguing with at all. I think this is more than likely the team that we're going to be fielding. Which brings us to, how is this game going to pan out, and how is this game going to be really won and lost? What we know from Leipzig and what we've seen from them at Celtic Park before, for any of you that have watched those games that have been at them or whatever, is Red Bull football is very much built on this kind of 4-2-2 system, where off the ball and on the ball they're going to make themselves really available to be on the ball. They take lots of high risk opportunities to create goal scoring chances, and with this kind of system they give a lot of freedom, they give a lot of agency to their players to be in the best position for wherever the ball is in relation to the state of play, which basically means they like to get on the ball and they like to go forward really, really quickly. So if they're, this game's probably going to be quite split when it comes to possession, and the way that they're going to try and exploit, any strengths that they have or kind of highlight or lean in on them is going to be their pace with Antonio Nusa here, who is the kind of remaining X factor that's in this team at the moment in terms of getting from back to front, because Benjamin Henrichs coming into this team, he's what David Rom normally offers is a really forward thinking left wing back, left winger essentially, and Benjamin Henrichs does like to do that. I'm sure we will see him popping up in the back post if they do sustain any kind of periods of attack, but he is a right back, he is predominantly right footed, so I can see this being much more of a kind of a midfield situation where we see him coming into here. And then although Haidara can go for a walk, Campbell likes to get on the ball, kind of similar to the way you see Callum McGregor play for us, and Baumgartner is very effective at picking up different spaces and being a good attacking mid. Nusa is the main one that if he gets on the ball within a couple of touches will be running up the pitch, will have us turning facing towards our own goal. And I think that's why Alex Valley is quite clearly going to be preferred to Greg Taylor in this game, because we've seen enough of Taylor in European football period, but I think even against these elite opponents to see where his ceiling is. And for as much as we don't really know where Valley's ceiling is at the moment, going man for man, shoulder to shoulder against Antonio Nusa, I think Valley is the number one candidate for this. But the left back thing, maybe there's some potential that some sort of wild card thing happens for us. But for me, Antonio Nusa is going to be the main kind of wild card player that we really, really need to watch out for here, because Openda and Sesko will play that traditional two up front kind of system for Leipzig, where Openda, who does also have pace, is going to have all the freedom that he would like to have to walk into any pockets of space that we maybe vacate as well on the top end of the pitch, on the last line of defence, for any long quick balls. Because although that they like to play in possession and they'll make it nice and tight compact lines and they'll try and use the ball really well and not give away possession, they're very happy to just play it into a bit of space and ask us some questions and then really flood the box and try and counter attack really quickly. So Openda will be roaming around in these kind of spaces here, and him alongside Nusa are going to be the main ones to really watch out for, because because otherwise the rest of these guys that are going to be playing into feet and trying to work their way through the pitch, as it were, are not going to have an easy time of it. I think the way we've got the midfield kind of structured at the moment, where the kind of development of who's playing next to the McGregor position, obviously McGregor's back now, which is cool, but it's been Bernardo and maybe a bit of McKeown in these kind of positions here. But having him kind of, having Engels and McGregor a lot closer together like we've seen before, with, having that ability to jump forward and initiate a bit of a press if he sees it on, I think will just give us that extra little bit of security, so that, if, Trusty maybe does need to stick a little bit wider and a bit wonkier of a position to kind of cover for any kind of movement on this side of the pitch here, if Valley is kind of tucking in or whatever, and adding in the likes of Alistair Johnson and Carter Vickers, who will be quite closely matched with Sesko in this game, you would imagine, coming into it. I don't really worry about a lot of the 1v1s that will be created here. Yes, they're going to happen. It's football. You need to be able to trust the process or whatever, that 1v1 these guys can, match the runs, can block the shots, cover the crosses, and make sure that they really, we really limit their chances. A key part of this is going to be the role Rio Hatate plays. We know he's going to be joining Kyogo in the front line for a lot of the kind of the busy press work to make sure it's really hard for them to get in the ball, on the ball in defence. But I really do think that we're going to see Kun and Daizen Maeda really exploit the width very, very well in this game, because Gertruida, who's a right back, but he's definitely like a right centre back kind of guy, he will be tucking in quite narrow. He will be 1v1v Dyson a lot in this game, and I think he did a rather good job on him, to be quite frank, when he was playing for Feyenoord. And Henrik's on this side with Nicholas Kuhn. But if our forwards are really, really wide and force these players to come into these kind of positions here, it really does just open up the possibilities for us to really go and create the sort of chances that we need to create for Kyogo. Now, the thing with Kyogo in this game is, against Klosterman and Orban, these are two big centre-backs, both like quite firmly Bundesliga players. I think Willy Orban, you would certainly rank him amongst the top 5 centre-backs. Maybe top 7 at the push in the Bundesliga over the last couple of years, this season in particular, whatever you want to think of it as. Klosterman, but maybe not quite as much. He's very much a squad rotation player at the club, but with Lukeba being injured and with some of the transfers that they've had gone out over the last couple of years, he is called upon to play in this match. So the way Kyogo is going to have to get around these guys isn't going to be by getting balls chipped into the air, because that's just not going to work. If that's the plan, then we'll need to be starting Adam Ida. Where we're really going to get some joy out of Kyogo is if we're able to get any pockets of space in and behind the defence when the ball is turned over really quickly and it's played out to the wide areas. Can we find the ball into this kind of pocket, this little channel here? Because make no mistake about it, as much as we've seen prime Celtic Brodgeball tiki-taka in the semi-final against Aberdeen, where we're making 26 passes before, a nice kind of back post finish for Daizen Maeda, that's not the sort of play. And I'm sure we'll get little spells in the match where we do hang on to possession, but the main way we're going to create real goal-scoring opportunities, because Leipzig are under a lot of pressure. They've not actually got any points yet in the Champions League, so they will be starting this game full throttle. They'll be starting this game in top gear from the first whistle. They will be throwing guys like Haidara and Baumgartner really high to support any pace that can be opened up with the likes of Nusa and Openda, like we've mentioned. And for us, that gives us all the chances in the world that we want to really turn the ball over quickly and make something happen. And we really need to out Leipzig them. And what I mean by that is, when we do play these balls into space and we do get our wide players on it, we need to make sure the ball hits the back of the net. I'm not too sure how many chances we're going to get 1v1 with the goalkeeper, or really breaking the trap in really quick counter-attack fashion like we're showing here on screen. But however many of these opportunities come, we need to make sure we capitalise upon every single one of them, because Leipzig are going to be pushing for this the entire 90 minutes. And although I do think our bench is stronger than it's probably been, and we should be able to go across 90 minutes as well, every opportunity is going to be precious here, because Big Galasha, as much as the defence, I think we can get round them. I think we can take them for pace, certainly. And if we bring Ida on later on in the game, I fancy if these guys are ran a bit ragged, he could definitely get some joy in this one later on as well. I think Kuhn versus Henriks could be very much all in favour of Kuhn, although Henriks is, again, a big strapping defender. It will make it hard. I think Kuhn is just in great form for going on the outside and coming on the inside. He's got good variety, he's got a good repertoire of things to do here, which should then just make sure that Daizen and Kyogo can get in on the kind of forward action, the second forward action if you're Daizen. But none of that is going to be possible if we're not turning the ball back over. If Valley isn't able to, and I think Valley could have an amazing game here against Nusa, and if he does, we should just be phoning Barca and saying, listen, we'll pay the money. Valley, we're keeping you, you're staying, pal. And I was talking about this with McBride on the Thursday stream, and somebody in the comments, it might have been on the live chat or afterwards, was saying that Valley's already said he's not up for it, which I find weird. And if that's the case, let me know in the comment section. Feel free to verify it, send me a link or something. But if Valley is able to do a great job here on Antonio Nusa, and between the rest of the defence, they can stifle, the main attackers that we're going to see pop up in the box as often as possible, then from both a defensive and an attacking point of view, the midfield is where this game is going to be won and lost. And we're really looking at Captain Callum McGregor here to do the best Callum McGregor job that he possibly can, and that is being that metronome player in defence, switching the ball from left to right very quickly, 1-2 touch stuff like we know he's capable of. But when the opportunity comes for him, we need to see McGregor take those spaces, drive up the pitch, because his delivery, his execution in the final third and in these big game situations is fantastic. And you trust McGregor to make the right decision. You know he's got the ability to do it, whether it is even shooting from the edge of the box, because he's been doing so well with that this year. But we've already mentioned what Hatate offers to this game, and I think that the threat that he has should maybe limit some of these players from deeper, like Campos and Haidaras, from getting a little bit higher. And equally from Engels, who again is no stranger to the opponent that we're playing against, having been an Augsburg player, being a Bundesliga player for the last few seasons. This is a game where he really needs to, and again, Baumgartner, Haidara, Campo, these are not midfielders that I think our midfield are going to be terrified by. Our midfield has been very well tested over the last couple of years against the best midfields in European football, and yeah, sure, we've not won that many of those games or done particularly well in a lot of them, but they've still kind of got those battle scars, got those bruises, learned from the games, grown from that, hopefully became better. We've spoke about that kind of word already. Progression, against Atalanta, getting the draw, which was fantastic after the destruction in Dortmund. But the defence, the midfield, I'm not really too worried about it in that sense of like we're against an opponent where we're out of our depth, but that is predicated on our boys doing their bit, winning the balls, winning their 50-50s, making the right decisions when the time comes. And I said it after the Aberdeen game, but it feels like this squad is getting into optimal shape right now. Even Alistair Johnson, because there's not really going to be too much on this left-hand side. Baumgartner is going to be really narrow, and yeah, we might see Openda maybe fancy himself coming out to this side of the pitch if Alistair Johnson does get really narrow, or if he goes really high and tries to support any attacks that we've got going on. Openda's got that freedom where he can maybe pop into this pocket of space here for a quick turnaround. So we need to be mindful of that. But Alistair Johnson really in the final third recently has been fantastic. And with Kuhn, the form that we've seen from him already this season, and like I say, I already spoke about a lot of the characters we've got on this side of the pitch here, but we've got a really dangerous right-hand side. And with them trying to focus on the left, I don't think the left is anything for us to be worried about. And if we do turn the ball over, even on this side of the pitch here, and we catch some space out, Daizen Maeda is the man that you want to release into a channel, into space, on the front foot, driving towards the box. He's just bagged a hat-trick. The first Celtic player to score a hat-trick since Daizen Maeda. That was a tweet that I found very interesting to see on the timeline after this one. And again, with his assist that he made for Kyogo against Aberdeen as well, like you just trust Daizen to set it up on a plate for anyone else. So I think we've got great balance. We've got more than one route to goal in this game. And if we can really just be totally switched on and really playing as a unit, because part of I've already kind of alluded to it, but one of the things that's been really boiling my blood with some of the big games, some of the big opportunities we get, is that we don't just put it on a plate and make sure someone can just tap it in. So I hope to see Kyogo be either super clinical in this game, or he's not being greedy guts and he will lay somebody else on for just a square ball and a tap in. Who cares? When it's 0-0, get the first goal, get us in front, and then give us even more control in the game. Because make no mistake about it, from the first whistle, like I mentioned, Leipzig will be in top gear. They'll be in full throttle, ready to come at us. But that's because the ball is in our court already. They've got no points. They really, really, really need everything from this game. They need 6 points. They need a morale-boosting win in European football, because they've had some close calls without getting any points. They've been close but no cigar on this one so far, and they'll be looking for a lot of vindication in this game, which really does play into our hands. Although we're a possession-based team, in this kind of situation, we don't want 80% possession. We want Leipzig to have a bit of the ball, but we need to be able to turn it back over, and then when there is space to run into, we know who's got the ability, we know who's open, we know what passes on, we make those choices and we make it count. And really, like, with them having to come out really from the opening, I don't want to get too madly optimistic. When I did my Champions League forecast on the channel, I did say I thought we would draw this game when the draw was made, or the fixtures came out. I thought we would draw this game and we would finish 4 games on 4 points. We're on 3 games at the moment with 4 points, and depending on how this game goes, we could finish it on 7. We could get a win in this one. We could win this game by 3-2. We could win it by 2-1. I could see that happening so easy. But something still makes me think that there's a draw in this game where we might not just have enough goals. We might just not take enough of our chances to really make it count, where it does become a draw, like a 2-2 or something like this. But as I actually lay it out here on the tactics board and I'm thinking about how the game is actually going to pan out with, they've not got that much pace in their team. They do have clinical forwards and they do have big, robust Bundesliga level, international German, Dutch level defence with a fantastic wall of a goalkeeper, Fraser Forster-esque, you might say. But at Celtic Park, under the floodlights, we've got pace, we've got strength in defence, we've got creativity in midfield, we've got a good attacking press, and we've got a good recovery defence kind of situation in midfield at the moment. And with the first 2 or 3 subs we're likely to make in this game, whether it be Scales coming on for another defender to kind of shore up the ship, Adam Ida for Kyogo, Paulo Bernardo for one of the midfielders. I think we could really get to 75, 80 minutes in this game being in control of the fixture, if not actually winning the fixture at that stage. And really, once we've got the subs coming on and we're kind of grinding it, we're kind of twisting the screw, as it were, they're only going to get more and more desperate. There could be some cards in this game that go our way as well, some rash challenges, because again, I don't think there's any mad elite defensive block here where they're so cool and composed that we're not going to be able to get by them. And I'm actually really optimistic for this one. And like I said in the intro, wouldn't it just be Celtic at paradise in the Champions League without that little bit of optimism, that little bit of hopium to come into it? I'm going to go for Celtic to win this game by 3-2. Let me know your score predictions down below. On screen and now some other stuff that we've made, including a great interview with Josh and a Bundesliga expert previewing the game from the Leipzig point of view as well, in terms of their form, the current squad, how they're kind of standing at the moment, what the fixture means to them, and all that good stuff. So I hope you enjoy that as well. Hail, hail, on the hoops.